get started. I know there's some people that's coming a little later. And today is very casual, kind of come and go as you want. First, I want to say thank you for all of you guys coming today. It's a good turnout. Anytime there's anyone here, it's a good turnout. We have had a lot of people pre-register from a lot of different zip codes as well. And hats off to each and every one of you here today, because it's not an easy subject. My name is Sharla Miller. I lost my son Matthew 2.5 years ago to suicide. I wrote a letter to God and had it read at Matthew's funeral and asked, why did you choose to sacrifice my only son too? Show me what you want me to learn and do with this tragedy. I'm ready. Well, 2.5 years later, and our third 13 Reasons to Fly SEK workshop, I'm here, still standing, putting one foot in front of another, trying, just like you, to make sure there's not one more. Do I want to be here today? No, I don't. But I really want to be at the West Virginia K-State game because my son would be a senior this year at K-State. That's not a reality. And sticking my head in the sand, putting the sheets back over my head, and never going into public and talk to anyone again, which is your first gut feeling, is not going to help anyone. And it's not going to reach our goal of not one more. Today, we're here for one reason, and that's either to help ourselves or to help someone like my son Matthew find hope and reason and not to be one more. I know firsthand the despair Matthew felt because I've fought depression my entire life. I also had an uncle that attempted suicide and failed and then lived 20 years later, 20 years in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the neck down. I was always taught that it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I always told my kids that. And I always looked for depression in my kids, and I think that was probably my most frustrating thing. But, you know, I realized, because my son's grave is close to my uncle's grave, that he was just one, and my kids were little. So to them, that was a story. They didn't live it like I lived it. I was all league, all state, homecoming queen. On the outside, I had everything, but on the inside, I fought with how I thought I looked, how I played. I was my own worst critic, and it was awful. And my parents never knew. I hid it very well. And so I know everyone says, ask someone, how are you doing? I'm asking you if you're the one fighting to reach out, because there are good people. You can look around here. Anyone would be glad to talk to you anytime. I'll never forget in college, a good friend of mine, she was from Chanute, and we'd gone to many basketball camps together and stuff, and she committed suicide at Pitt State. And I mean, I was just blown away. And that's when I kind of thought, And I said something to my doctor, and the way she put it was, I wasn't the one with the problem, I was fixing the problem. I do not make enough serotonin to keep myself not depressed. And so it was a chemical imbalance. It didn't matter how good a shape I was in, what I did, what I ate, you're always trying to fix it. It was something that I was not able to fix. And so the way, that made me feel that I wasn't the problem. And thank goodness today there's so many, different medicines out there that can help us get over that hump. The struggle is real, and I understand too that not only is, depression, I guess, is taboo, and I think that's one of the big things we're trying to do here is take away that stigma, Okay, so you have depression problems. There's things out there and there's people there to help you. And I think my wish this weekend is that everyone can find just one thing to help them personally take away from this workshop and put into their tool belt of life, is what I call it. If you can just find one tool to help you, you don't have to do everything we talk about, but if there's something that can help you, and help make your life a little brighter and a little happier, then I know that we have succeeded this weekend. We have an amazing group of individuals here today, and we have 4 amazing workshops. And I am so blessed to have an amazing backing, and I call them my closest friends now. You know, I didn't know a lot of them before this, but we have grown and we have struggled and we have come together, and our goal is not just every year. We would like to do a monthly deal. We want this to grow. Every year is great, but we know that it needs to be more. The surrounding community and everyone, Iola, Southeast Kansas, has all come together. I am just amazed how everyone pours in. You don't have to go out and ask for donations. They come to you. We all understand that we are ready. I'd like to give a little background on how we started with the 13 Reasons to Fly SEK 3 years ago. Isabel Cole, she was the founder of 13 Reasons to Fly in Washington, D.C. After my son's suicide in June and July, a group of our youth had gone to Kansas City to the United Methodist Church there and heard her speak, and they're like, she's amazing, you gotta get her here. So in November that year, I flew her in, and she is wise beyond her years. How this 13 Reasons to Fly came about, there was a Netflix series called 13 Reasons Why, and it was on how to do suicide, why you do suicide. And she was in a mental institution, and she flipped this around on 13 reasons to fly, how you can live, why you should live, your 13 reasons. Come up with your own 13 reasons. She was not able to be with us this weekend, but she wanted to wish us all the best. And when she came the very first time, she said, I've never met a community more ready to do something. And to me, that made us proud. I mean, all of us here today are here for a reason, and I think we're going to have a great workshop. So that leads me today to talk about our guest speaker. And I think she's going to really give us some tools to help with our tool build a life. Today we have Amber Jewell. She's the author of her new book called Finding Hope. And not only our guest speaker, but she's also going to conduct one of the workshops today. Amber is a licensed social worker for Leroy and Gridley schools. And as a foster child and survivor of child abuse, Amber refers to acts of kindness as pebbles that everyone carries in their pocket. The more you gather, the better you are to weather life's challenges. I won't spoil any more of her book or what she's going to bring today, so let's give a great welcome to Amber Jewell.
All right. We're all excited to be starting some conversation, right?
Yes.
Yes. Because we all love to talk in front of people, right? Oh, maybe not. See, that's okay, because truth is okay. You know, public speaking is one of the most feared activities. Yeah. But I think in my book I talk a little bit about facing your fears. And so it takes a lot of bravery to stand up here, but it takes a lot of bravery for you to be here, because, well, not every presentation is overly exciting, right? But hopefully we can make this one. See, I'm looking at the youngsters in the middle there, and I'm like, you will give me the truest of the true answers without saying a word, and I appreciate that. Are you moving seats yet? All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and let me tell you a little bit about me and why I'm here today. First of all, thank you for asking me to come and sharing your story. What a bravery in itself. You know, I can't imagine sitting in those shoes. And actually, for a really long time, I never acknowledged what my shoes were, who I was. I would introduce myself in any way than what she just did for years. I would tell you a little bit about myself as, hey, my name's Amber, and I like riding. I like winter. Yeah, it's my favorite season. I love animals. I have 2 dogs, 2 cats. I would tell you that I drive a motorcycle. Anybody else? Yeah? Put it on your bucket list. It's a pretty fun thing. I've written a book. I would tell you I hate tomatoes unless somebody throws them at me, and then it's kind of entertaining. I would probably tell you anything about me but one thing. See, because I stand up here and I may not look like what I felt I was at that time. See, how we look and seem to be to other people is not necessarily how we feel on the inside. And so I introduced myself with any way that I possibly could, but a foster child. You see, people look at me and they say, whoa, I mean, they know me for years. I'm a social worker, okay? I've worked in schools, I work in child welfare, I do public speaking. And they would say, oh, you haven't lived a tough life. You haven't had suffering, or I never thought you were a foster kid. And it took me a long time to realize our challenges are a part of us, but it doesn't define us. It makes us stronger, though. I have to take that and say, wow, I've learned some really cool skills of being a foster kid that other people don't have because of the challenges I've been through. And that's where I discovered hope. So now I introduce myself as, hey, I'm Jewell. I can't forget that I drive a motorcycle because people think that's cool, particularly students. And then I say, by the way, I was a foster kid, adoptive parent, I'm a social worker, I'm an advocate, and I'm all those things because I am Amber and those are a part of me. What is your name? And what is a part of you? What is your kid's name? And what is a part of them? And do you see your kid first? Do you see yourself first and all those other things second? You are that valuable, as was I. And that's how I found hope. In being Amber, just because I was her. Okay, so what is hope? Oh, I hope you know. I know, it was a pun. Kindergartners think it's hilarious with my puns, by the way, so. Hope, to cherish a desire with anticipation. It's saying that there's a tomorrow. I'm so glad you're here today, and you might have been thinking about it yesterday. What a great day today is. How excited am I that you are here, and I hope you know that, because you had hope that this was going to be a good presentation, right? Yeah. See, we all hold hope. You may not realize it, but you do. You did, to come here, to go to school the next day, to see your kid the next morning that you're like, oh my goodness, tough kid, but you still want to see him the next morning because you hope it's a better day. We all carry hope, and I hope you know that. Do we have a drummer here? I need a drummer to, thank you. So what is hope in our lives? Hope is a root. Hope is a foundation that's going to get us through the things we're going to talk about. We have to explore it. I mean, this is my family, and again, it's pretty entertaining when people meet me and they learn a little about me. I went to school in Iola. I was in a foster home here in this town, in this community, in middle school. And I never looked that way. Because people see my picture, and like she was talking about, and the story that she has, you know, from the outside, people tell me, you've lived a great life, or you will never get me, Amber, because you've never had challenges. Well, friends, we've all had challenges. We all struggle. We all have hardships, but how we handle them, the people we go to, and I'll talk to you about that. This is a beautiful picture by a beautiful photographer. And it has some pretty cool people. There's me, my husband, our daughter who is adopted, fostered and adopted, and then our son. And he is entertaining. I'll tell you what, he doesn't come with me to these. Do you know why? He'd be the entertainment. He'd be going, hi. I know you guys really want that, but I left it out a little bit today. She's looking at me like, why can't I be up front doing this with you, right? see whatever your thoughts are, that's okay. You know, humor is one of the best coping skills. Appropriate humor. But humor is a healthy thing. It's a healthy thing. It's a way to say, oh man, it's tough, but I can still laugh about it and make it through. Humor is a great thing. So, this is saying that hope is a root. Who are you rooted in? What is your thoughts? What are your goals? What is the root to your hope? How do you find it? Is you create a root in it, even when you're in challenges. And that's what I did with these kids. And hopefully I can hopefully, it just comes natural. I can continue it through them. When that little girl says someday, my friends aren't nice to me. Mom, you upset me. I don't give her maybe what she needs and we're miscommunicating. Or she says, I realize that you're not my biological mom. You know, that root of hope of we can discover who we are as an individual. So let me tell you a little bit about my story, and these are in my book. So this was published by Hatherley Press in New York. It is called Finding Hope. And the first concept of hope, I know. If you know me, I'm a really bubbly person. I'm like, all the time, and kids roll their eyes at me a lot, and parents are like, whoa, she must have had coffee today. And I said, yeah, I did, but that wasn't why. See, the reason is because I carry hope, and they would think I would have a really fun, bubbly first chapter, right? Is accepting that life is tough a bubbly first chapter? No, it's not. And a lot of us, I think, sit in denial or frustration or other feelings of accepting that life is tough. But friends, we have to realize there's more after this. This is just a point of acceptance. No matter what age you are, no matter what your experience is, whether you are a kid in care like me or you've had an ideal family, we're going to experience tough times. We will. That's part of being in the world. And so if we're not fair with understanding that we all have tough challenges, we're not going to be equipped to handle them. Okay? So realize that life is tough. Here's a few things I have in the book. Tough times can serve as a great period of movement, and it can change the trajectory. I don't know about you, but I expect some of you, you're all young, but anybody that's a little bit older may have had experience that they say, ooh, I had this tough experience and I learned a lot from it, and that's why I am the way I am, right? And it changed your life because you learned something. And the story I talk about here was when I was 15 years old. I lived down here in southeast Kansas, and I lived in a very broken home. I came from a home where there was addiction, there was abuse, and I just want you to know it's totally okay if you hear my story and you're like, whoa, I need a break and a breath, and you need to take a break and step out. I'm okay with that. You know why? Because you're respecting yourself, and you are valuable to take that. Because it's heavy stuff. And for me as a 12-year-old, it was heavy whenever I had been locked in a room and isolated for most of my life, particularly a few years before that. And there was many times where I didn't feel like I had value. And it was my 6th grade year, and I had this thing move in next door. It was called a friend. Okay, so I'm in 5th grade, 6th grade, and I had this friend move in next door. I had never had a friend before. At least what I thought was a friend, right? Because I kind of smelled, and I wasn't allowed to go hang out with friends. And I went to school, and what I would do at school is I'd take things that weren't mine to play with in my room. Or I'd take food. Or I would do things that really didn't look good in the eyes of others, but I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't think anybody would get it, right? So I had this friend move in next door, and it was the summer of that year, and we were hanging out, And she gave me juice. I really liked friends who had juice, by the way. Apple juice fans? Anybody? Yes. High five, air five in the back row. Yes. Yeah. And she would give me juice. And then my dad came up to me and said, Amber, you're having too much fun. Get back in your room. And so it was the summer of that year, and they locked me back in my very small, isolated room. And what happened was I had that movement in life, and it triggered a new emotion. And it was like that pebble that people were putting in my pocket that said I was worthy of something when she said, you're my friend. When the people at school said, we'll see you tomorrow. When that cook gave me that extra biscuit, now my friend had done this. And so that night, I packed up my stuff, AKA my writing, that was it, and I threw it out my window because I didn't have a window in the summertime because, you know, Kansas weather, nice and hot, so you open the window and threw my window out, threw my bag out my window, and I went to the neighbor's house. And you're like, wow, why are you telling this story when life is tough? That sounds like it was a good deal because I was going to go live with my neighbor for the rest of my life, right? Well, I thought I was. And instead I got taken to the police station and I was put in foster care. And that taught me, friends, that life is tough. We have expectations sometimes that it should go a certain way, but challenges are okay. Because not only was that tough, but it opened doors to changing my life for the better. And I'll tell you how I got to that side. It changed my perspective of what was happening to what could happen. All of a sudden, I saw the life of another, my friend, my neighbor, and I realized the life I'm living could be different. I can get to that other side. As she testifies about depression and saying that you can get to the other side of that, she's probably struggled with that since she was our age, but there is the other side of managing and being healthy. And my friend was showing me that other side. So, you can't do chapter 1 without chapter 2, friends. Because accepting that life is tough is just one step. Because just because it's tough doesn't mean you can't do it. You've done it already, right? You have. Is it hard to applaud yourself? You, my friend, have made it through a tough time. Yay! Can you tell yourself congratulations? Clap. Woo! You are awesome! You've made it through a tough time already. You have done this. You know, that annoying teacher, that hard test, that parent issue, that sibling friend, that financial issue, the holidays. Oh, by the way, there's this thing called COVID. You have made it through tough times. Now, did I ever say that tough being tolerable means it was good? No. Did I ever say it's easy? No. Some of the greatest learnings in our lives is challenging. And that's why we have therapy. That's why we have connections. That's why we have people of influence. But it is tolerable. Without rain, nothing grows. And so learning the perspective that you carry into your next day is so powerful. You want to know how I learned this story? I went into foster care. I was 14 years old. Well, 12 years old is when I went in, so I was probably 13 at the time, 12, 13. And I got put in my new foster home. Now, I'm going to say this first. I have a lot of really good stories, happy stories, but I'm going to tell you some of the not so happy stories that I learned from, okay? So there's some really good in this. But the story I'm going to tell you is I was in a foster home where they struggled with mental illness, the foster parents. It was co-ed. As a teenager, if you're an adult, you're like, whoa, boys and girls together, yes, my choice. And the foster mom struggled with depression. The foster dad struggled with boundaries. And they had a son at home that was older, 28, that was the same, struggled with boundaries. And I would be in this home, And there was a day that they were mad at each other. The adults were mad at each other. Because, you know, adults still have feelings and challenges and histories. Okay, so we have to practice that self-care too. And they struggled with that, and I saw it. And what was tough was when I would have new foster siblings, or I was at school and I was known as the foster kid instead of just Amber. Or foster siblings that were struggling and they were having hard times. And I remember the day I held down one of my foster sisters and I said, "You matter," as she was trying to harm herself. And I, in that moment, realized I need to be here with these people. I can tolerate this because I'm helping somebody. Because it was better than it was at Dad's house. Even though we're having struggles, these people cared for one another. We related. And so even when it was really tough, I realized it was tolerable because I conquered harder things. Have you conquered harder things? Have you seen people conquer harder things? Do you not give yourself credit for what you did? And so we made up a lie the next day to stay there together after I'd done this with my foster sister. Because we said, oh, it's tough here, but it's tolerable. So when challenges are before us, we can make it through. It may not be easy. It may not be perfect. It may not be where we want to be. See, I didn't want to be there forever, but friends, look, I'm right here. And in that day, I never knew I'd be right here. But I am because I persevered. And perspective, that there is another place, that I can do something in this. So, which direction is this guy looking? Yeah, I don't know. Whichever direction you say, I just want you to know, you, my friend, are right. Yeah, you're right. How many legs are on the elephant? Face the fear, friends. Give an answer. 8, 5, 4, 6. I'm just going to tell you, you are right. Woo! A++, friends. Because I don't know. It's your perspective. Your perspective when things are tough, and these are tough to answer. So perspective is seeing that other people have other opinions, and that's okay. You gave a different answer than I would give, and that's okay. It may not be, maybe even possible right now, to give a correct answer. That's okay. Because tough is what? Tolerable. The front row can tolerate this because they're the front row seaters. I'm sorry, so tough is what? Tolerable. It is. The other thing I like to mention here, for those of you who work or see or are parents of somebody from hard places, it's not our job to save people. We do that within ourselves. But those little moments where you smile at somebody, can you everybody smile? Everybody smile. Everybody. Yeah! Power of a smile changes the mood. Little things, giving that biscuit that I would get. You'll notice in my training I do mints, peppermints. It's because every Sunday I went to church. Here's why I went to church, not because I believed in a darn thing about church, but every time I went to church, people smiled at me. And they welcomed me, no matter how I smelled, no matter my reputation, no matter how many times the police had been to my house. They smiled at me, and I remember my grandma would always give me a mint, a peppermint. And that's why I bring mints to all my trainings, because that matters. Those little pebbles matter of what you do. So little moments can make big impacts. This is probably the most feedback I get in the chapters. So an interesting thing about my book is it's not a testimony book. I do talk a little bit about it, but it's mainly a self-help, and there's reflections at the end of each chapter. And this is the one I hear about the most. And let me tell you what this is. This is about finding your people. And it's really important that you remember they're yours. They're not my people. Your people that you set up here, those 4 people, those aren't my people. They're your people. And we are created to have our own people. You know what an issue is with this? Social media. Do I have 1,000 friends? Do I have 1,500 friends? Do I have 5 million friends? By the way, I guess there is like Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram. And can somebody under 18 please come up here and tell me all the social media stuff? I can't keep up with it. It does not matter how many friends you have on there to define your people. Did you know statistically, people have close connection people 2 to 3 at a time that we trust, truly trust and value, and is mutual. And that's healthy, friends. That's an okay thing. Healthy connections to people we trust. Now there's lots of others, but those few that we have. So your people are those people who see the very best possible in you. But not only that, they also challenge you to be the best version of yourself. They don't let you skim by at your bare minimum. Okay? Sometimes you'll realize that maybe your people that you thought were your people are not your people. Or you have the power to say they're not anymore. How did I learn about my people? I was 15 years old and I wanted people. See, we were created to be around people. Even my husband, who's an introvert person, needs people. And I would go up to people. I was 15 years old and I wanted to live with family. And I wanted to be this word, adopted, as a teenager. But I didn't want to say it out loud. But I would go up to people and I'd be like, do you want a kid? I'm available. So I noticed you had an extra bed in your house. I could use it for you. I'm sure your ministry is to help kids. I'm a kid, I'm a cool kid, I'm a good kid. I'll be good for you if you could help me. And I would go up and I would ask people to be my people. And by the grace of God, did I not get unhealthy people? Because I could have. I was vulnerable enough. I wasn't giving myself enough value at that moment. But what I did do was I got a call from this lady from my church. And we went to, anybody know Beto Junction? Okay, yeah. So we went on a hot dinner to Beto Junction. Yes. All right. Anybody under 30 gets me there, it's fine. And we went to Beto Junction to have lunch together because she said to me, Amber, I would like for you to join my family. So I would be the oldest of 3 kids. I was 15 years old. I had quite a history, let me say. And you know what I did to her is I sat there and I listed all the reasons she would not want me. Because we're tuned to our negatives. We are naturally throwing those negatives out there. But for every negative, we need 3 positives. Sometimes for us from hard places, even more. And I said, are you sure you want to take me? Because I'm going to need braces. I don't have a lot of clean clothes. I've lived a hard life. I'm expensive. I got to go to church. Actually, I didn't like going to church at the time. That's how I met her. I might need shoes. By the way, I like bed. I like to sleep. Anybody else like to sleep? We could hang out. And I gave her all these reasons that she would not want to be my people. And what she said to me is, we want all of you. The good, the bad, the ugly. And I ended up joining her family. Now, what I'm going to tell you is that was learning what my people is. You may not have them right now. You might be learning who they are. That's okay. That's an okay place to be. They may change with time. That's okay too. But we're all worthy of our own people who will respect us and encourage us and see us greater than we are. Seeking knowledge. So there's 12 chapters in this book. I'm only going through 5. High five! Woo woo! Thank you, back row. And seeking knowledge, knowledge is different than wisdom, okay? I do talk about wisdom later, but it's different. Knowledge is about knowing and understanding. And I'm not going to go into this one right now, but what I'm going to tell you is sometimes we have mental illness in our family and we don't understand it, or within ourselves. And when I was in foster care, a lot of people ask about my mother. I went and lived in another state of Kentucky. Hey, I'm not horsing around. Hello, okay. State of Kentucky is beautiful. And my mother struggled with what was called manic depression at the time, bipolar, and had a spouse that struggled with schizophrenia. And what I talk about in seeking knowledge is for us to grow, don't make assumptions. Don't get lost in assumptions. Don't take things personal when maybe it's not intentional to us. And understanding that ignorance is not an opt-out in life. I had to explore mental illness. What is depression? What is manic depression or bipolar? Is it a symptom I have or in my family? And if so, how do I treat it? How do I see her as a person separate from her illness? That's a long process, friends. This isn't an overnight. But knowledge is powerful. So ask the people who know. We're created to learn. And then last but not least is learning from your past. I know. I get those looks all the time on this one, like, ah. See, we want to get over the past, we want to forget the past, but the past is a part of us. You can ask people of years, ask your caregivers, ask your friends, ask yourself, did you learn something already that has helped or changed you? Probably, and that's your past. We all have one. The power we have in learning about our past, though, we forget. I didn't say sit in your past. I didn't say like your past, but learning from your past. Developing a perspective that the type of parenting I'm naturally tuned to use is probably not what I want to use when I look at my 2 kids in that first picture. I have hope and power in me to be different than my past and to keep things from my past. And it's okay to do both. So explore your past. Real quick, I'll tell you, I know I'm probably out of time, but I'm going to tell you real quick my story in this one, how I learned it. When I was a sophomore in high school, I came back to my hometown. And so I have older siblings that didn't come into foster care. We are not responsible or able to change other people's opinions of things. Free yourself from that, or you will get lost in that struggle. But every day I went to school and I did this. And I was shy. And I felt like my reputation from years before as a liar and a thief and a foster kid was going to be what everybody thought about me. And I came home and my new mom, Kim, that I was telling you about, the third day she came up to me and she said, "Pull yourself up by your bootstraps." That was such a harsh statement. Does anybody want to come up here and cry with me, please? Afterwards, friend? Because at that time, I didn't like what she said. And it's okay, because we have a right to how we feel. But she gave me one of the most powerful statements in saying that, is she was saying, you are worth more than this. You are greater than the things that have happened before. You have capability to learn from and change the perspective you carry. That's what she told me. And so I walked into school the next day a little prouder, a little taller. Didn't fix my world, but it gave me hope that I could change that past. So these are the other chapters I'm not going to go over, but the first 5 are there for a reason. And the biggest thing that I talk about with all of these is that life is tough, but so are we, friends. And I can say that because I thought life challenges ended at 18. Do they? 19, 21, 30? Nobody in here is above that, so. Right? No, because I'll tell you a little bit. When I was a young adult, I had brain surgery. I'm screwed up in the head. Literally, and it's a cool thing, okay? I have screws up here because I had seizures from child abuse when I was little. See, our past comes to us in places we may not expect. Our challenges come in places we not expect because life is tough. But friends, so are we. And when we use our people, when we use knowledge, and when we learn from things and believe in the worth we have from those little pebbles that people have told you, because I'm so glad you're each sitting here, we can continue to change the world. Continue to be as valuable as we were created to be and create influence of one another and the lives around us. So as I say, life is tough. Anybody want to read that? But so are you. Who is that? Life is tough, but so am I. Do we believe this? I say I do, because I've had a rough life, but I get to be right here because of the life we live and finding hope in that. So life is tough, but so am I. Life is tough, but so am I. You guys touch lives, and I'm so glad you're each here in the lives you live. Can't wait to see you a little bit later today, and keep being awesome.
Thank you, Amber, that was great. So just go through a little housekeeping. We're gonna, if you would like something to eat, as far as a little snack, you can go to your right and then up the stairs, and there's like a few donuts and different things. And then we have 4 workshops. You guys should have all each got a brochure in your little packet. And we're gonna do 2 workshops, then have lunch, and then 2 more workshops. And then after that, we'll have a short panel, and you guys can ask us questions. The different workshops is Suicide Prevention and Hope, which is Amber's workshop. That will be down in the Christ Recital Hall. We've got Shedding Mental Weight with Kurt Jackson, and that will be here in the auditorium. We've got Coping Skills and Meditation and Mindfulness with Lisa Holloway and Matt Stuckey, and that's going to be in the green room. There will be signs out there that you guys can see. Everyone should be able to go to every workshop because you'll do 2 now and 2 later. And then the last one is What Are Your Reasons to Fly? And that'll be with Jewell and Taylor. And you guys can now take a little break and get a snack. The restrooms are downstairs through the exit doors. And if you have any questions, find one of us with the shirts on, and we will find someone that knows what's going on. But you guys can go ahead and go to your first workshop, and feel free to get a water or something, and we'll break.